Hey YouTube, what's up? This is Ben from ShouldIGetIt.com. Welcome to another episode of Shooting Cars, the show where I teach you all about how to take, edit, and get paid for automotive photography. And in this week's episode, we're going to be talking all about the money. We're going to get down to business. I'm going to teach you how to get paid, how to get into getting paid for your first time. And just as a note, even if you're not an automotive photographer, I highly recommend that you watch this because I do portrait photography, as you can see here as well, and I do automotive, and it's very similar for both sides of the business in those two genres. So what I'm going to explain here works for automotive and portrait, probably works for more, but we're going to be talking about how to get paid for the first time, how to set your rates, because the tough thing is how much should I be charging people? What do people pay for pictures of their car? How do I get hired by people? How do I get people with particular cars to let me shoot their cars or hire me? And then I have a bunch of Instagram questions that you guys were awesome enough to ask and you sent to @acarphotographer on Instagram, so I appreciate that. So we're going to go through everything right now, and we're going to start off with how I get paid. I'm going to tell you personally about my business, how I get paid, the reality of it, just so you kind of have a wake-up call, and then we'll get into how you can get paid as well. So I do portrait and automotive photography, as I mentioned. For portrait photography, what I wish I was doing, I wish I was shooting studio and beach photos all the time. We're in my studio right now. You can see this. I have a ton of lights. It's an awesome space. I wish I was here 50% of the time, and I want to be at the beach the other half, and I want to shoot some landscape stuff as well. But in reality, I'm doing a lot of headshots for actors and models to send to agencies. I'm doing LinkedIn photos for people trying to get new jobs. I'm shooting grads, people who are graduating from college or even high school sometimes, who want photos to kind of memorialize that. And I'm getting paid. Most of my actual business invoices that I send out are for event photography. So I do a lot of corporate event photography. So I shoot for various companies here in Silicon Valley. And let's say they are having a team party to celebrate a product launch, or just a once a year get together, whatever they have, an offsite for their team. I shoot a lot of those, and that is what pays a lot of my bills. That's something I don't even advertise on my website, but my point is that sometimes you will have to shoot something that you're not really known for to pay bills. So if you're an automotive photographer, you might have to shoot, for a company that makes tools that helps an automotive shop, maybe something like that. So take on challenges that are a little bit out of your comfort zone, maybe something you don't desire to shoot, but it'll help you pay the bills. Now for automotive photography, this is where it's going to get really real, you guys. I wish that I was shooting supercars in secret industrial spots and was hired by the owner of the car. That's what I wish. I wish that it was just like, here's the keys, or let's go for a drive, we'll find a really sick spot, we'll go shoot. That's not what I do most of the time, okay? When I get hired, it's usually, thankfully, on the higher end of vehicles. I do get to shoot some exotics throughout the year. Most of the exotics I do shoot for free, and I'll cover when and why you should shoot for free later in this video. But a lot of the times I'm hired by shops or businesses that need photos. So I'm hired by small kind of boutique dealerships that need images of a particular car for sale and for their website for marketing. I'll do stuff like that. I don't shoot for dealerships like inventory photos. I know some of you guys do that. That's a great way to get into kind of the market and go more to the marketing side, for a local dealer. But I don't do the inventory stuff. I take pictures for shops that do, let's say, custom wheels, custom tires, suspension, whatever it is. I'll shoot for shops like that. I'll shoot for shops that do custom interiors. I'll shoot for shops that sell specialty cars and stuff like that. That's where I get hired most of the time. Or as some of you may know, I worked at an exotic rental agency, and I still shoot for them time to time when they have a new vehicle and they need to rent it out. So that's kind of the real world of it. You'll get hired more by businesses than owners. And quick thing, you will get hired more by people with lower end non-supercars than you will by guys with supercars, because they get asked to shoot all the time, and it's probably kind of annoying to them. So if you own an exotic and it's not annoying, please let me know. So how do you know when you're ready to get paid? I get this question a lot, and I didn't know when I would be getting paid, and I didn't even think about it, because when I got into photography, I started with portraits. I only got into automotive a couple years after that, but when I got into it, it was just for fun, and it still is pretty much just for fun, but thankfully I'm able to get paid off of it and a little bit off these YouTube videos, which honestly I'm not making like anything. I didn't even break even last year. Thank you for watching and supporting, but photography is now thankfully letting me pay for my cars and for various things. So when someone messages you on Instagram or sends you an email or a Facebook message or comes up to you in real life and says, hey, I want to get some pictures of my car, how much do you charge? Or when they say, what's your rate? That's when you know that someone thinks that you're worthy of being paid for your work. And that's usually the first time you'll realize, like, oh, whoa, like I can be getting paid for this. And so my tip for you there is, do not give them a number straight up. Say, I have to think about it. It depends on what you want. and then let me know what you need and I can get you a quote. And that's the best way to do it, because you don't want to under or overcharge, especially for your first shoot where you don't know how much you're going to charge. Another thing, when someone asks you for a particular type of photo, and they say, something other than, hey, you can shoot my car if you want. If someone's like, oh, hey, I really want rollers of my car, you can say, okay, I can shoot rollers, but I have to get paid X amount of dollars for that. Okay, so when someone wants something in particular and they know you're capable of doing it, that's when you're ready to get paid. Or if a lot of people are asking you and DMing you and being like, hey man, do you want to shoot my car? You can shoot my car. Can I get some photos of my car? Whatever it might be. If there's, let's say, 5 to 10 people asking you every day, then you can message them and say, hey, I don't have time for everyone, so I need to prioritize by who's willing to pay me. Here's what my rate is. Here's how many images you'll get. And if you're interested, we can set up a date and a time and you can go from there. Because if 10 people say, hey, you can shoot my car, you probably don't have the time to do all that. And at that point, that means that some of them are going to be willing to pay you. Some, if you say that, they'll be like, oh, you know what? I'll just take pictures of myself for free. That's fine. You want the guys who are willing to pay you. And make it really easy for people to contact you. That's why Instagram's so awesome now with Instagram DMs. Basically, if someone likes your work, they can just message you right there and say, hey, how much do you charge? I really want to get photos of my car done by you, blah, blah, blah. This is why I redid my website last year, because my website used to be really good for showing off the images of the cars, but it was hard for people to email me because the contact page wasn't all that simple. So on my new website, which you guys can see, benrevson.com, which is powered by Format, I'm not sponsored to say that, but it's really easy for people to contact me on there. So when they see images that they like and they realize, oh, I want to hire Ben, they can click contact me, they email me, it comes to my phone, I email them back, and then we start going. So that's how you know when you're ready to get paid. And again, make it really easy for people to contact you. So the next question, how much should I charge? And this has so many factors in it, but there's a basic formula that I want to tell you about that will make it easy for you to get your base price started. And then once you get enough shoots at that rate, you'll probably bring your rate up as you get more and more busy, there's more demand for your photos, and you realize that you're worth more. So one, you can only charge as much as you believe you're worth. So if you don't think that you could charge someone $300 and not feel stressed out about it, don't charge someone $300, okay? Because you need to believe that your images are worth at least that much money, as much as you charge someone. So think about it, literally put yourself in their shoes and say, would I pay someone of that quality, X amount of dollars to take pictures of my car? So if the answer is no, you don't think your pictures are there yet, don't charge that, okay? The other thing is start a little bit higher than you think. If you think for your first shoot you should make 50 bucks, say 75, and if someone comes down to 60, there, you made 10 more dollars. If someone says, oh, I really think 50 would be a better number, you could be at 50 and you're happy, but start a little bit higher, but don't start, at like 200 if you don't think you're worth that when you're actually trying to get 50. Start, 10, 25, $30 more, and that way you have some room to move down. That's just typical sales and negotiation. Factor in the local income, the cost of the cars, how young the people are that you're shooting, stuff like that. So if, someone's average monthly salary in your area, I'm in the Bay Area, so thankfully, payments, people's salaries are fairly high, thankfully, but that means people's expenses are really high too, and that's a whole nother story. But that means that if someone's, making $400 a month, you probably can't charge them $400 for a shoot. But if you live in an area where people are making $4,000 a month, then you could charge $400, right? So I know some of you guys are international, some of you are in places that make more money than here, some are in less, so it totally depends on your market and what you think typically photography is worth in that area. And so here is the very simple formula for how much money you should be getting paid for your first shoot. Think about how much time the entire shoot takes you, so that's driving, shooting, editing, uploading, emailing, making invoices, all that stuff. Multiply it by minimum wage, and that should be the very minimum that you will take for a shoot where you're quoting a cost, okay? So let's say it takes you 5 hours to do a shoot. That's, with everything, driving to the location, taking the pictures, editing in Lightroom, uploading, emailing back and forth with the client, whatever it might be. Let's say it takes you 5 hours, minimum wage in your area is $10 an hour. You should at least be making 50 bucks off that shoot, right? Because if you could be making the same money just sitting in a McDonald's, which I realize is not as exciting and cool as taking pictures of cars, but if you can make that same money elsewhere, then it's, I just don't think worth your time necessarily. And I think that that's kind of the base minimum. That's how I did my numbers. And you just need somewhere to start. If you've watched like Gary Vee or any, inspirational people, motivational entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call it, everyone just says get started. So that's a good way to find a starting number. Where you end up could be, who knows? You could go from 50 bucks to $5,000 depending on your quality. But I'm just saying that that is a good place to start for your first shoots. You should be charging at least what you would make minimum wage, and hopefully you're profiting a little bit more than that, okay? And then the other thing is, when you're charging someone, make it concrete what's included, right? When you're just shooting for your friends, and let's say you go out and shoot for a couple hours and you only come up with 10 images or 100 images and you share those, that's one thing. When someone's paying you good money for photos, you have to tell them exactly what they're gonna get at a minimum, okay? So tell someone at minimum you'll get 10 images, 15, 20 images, right? But don't promise a really high number, something that's gonna be really tough to deliver. Don't promise someone 40 or 50 images if you don't think you're capable of that in the amount of time allotted, in the location that you're gonna shoot at, all those various things. So for my shoots, I promise a client 10 very high-end images that are processed, and that's what I do. I guarantee 10, and if there are more than 10, then the client can pay extra, and I'll kind of go over that processing next. So now let's talk about, you're starting to get paid. You are getting a minimum, hopefully $50 or whatever it is in your area for a car for X amount of pictures. You're making it very concrete. And then you're thinking, well, can I still shoot cars for free, or when should I shoot for free? And if I want to go from $50 to $100, how do I do that? And that was a big thing for me, was realizing, I think I realized it almost not too late, because thankfully I'm still doing it, but I realized that I could have raised my prices a lot sooner because I was doing pretty cheap shoots. Back in high school, for example, guys, I was taking portraits for $5 a photo shoot. My first photo shoot ever, I got paid $5 in cash, and I put it in an envelope and I said, this is my camera fund. I'm gonna get 200 photo shoots and I'm gonna buy myself a new lens. And thankfully my rate went up from there, but I did $5, $10, $25, $50 shoots for the longest time. So anyways, let's talk about when to shoot for free. So if you want to shoot a car because it's a very high-end car, or you're lusting after it, or you just want to hang out with the owner or go for a ride, if it's a passion that you have and you understand that it's kind of a trade of someone's time for you to shoot that car, and you have a shot in mind, you should shoot that for free. So if you find a spot that's really cool to shoot at, and you have a particular vision in your mind for like one image, let's say, then you can DM or text or call the owner, whatever, say, hey, I found this really sick spot. I want you to bring your 675 LT or your LaFerrari or your 911R or F12 TDF, whatever car it might be. I want you to bring it to that spot so I can get this photo that I've been visualizing. And in that way, they are helping you, right? They're bringing their car out, they're spending their time. Maybe you'll get a ride in it, whatever. You can shoot it for free. You can shoot for free to build your own portfolio and connect with that person, and maybe they'll hire you for other stuff. Or for your friends. A lot of my friends that I shot with when I first started, I still shoot their cars now for free. I don't have a set number of images I'll give them, but it's always good to be practicing and good to be shooting with your friends and with cars that you like. And in that case, you should be shooting for free, right? Because imagine if you didn't get an owner to bring that car and you had to rent it for the day for a photo shoot, you would be paying for that. So here, it's a trade of time of you giving them images in trade for them coming out and bringing their car so you can create that image. If you say, hey, can you bring your car to this spot? I want to take this one really cool photo or a couple cool photos here, and they agree, but then they say, oh, can we also get rollers and can you get detail shots and actually want to sell the car? So can you take some, inventory type photos? Once they get to that and they're asking you again for something particular to do, then you have to say, I can do the first image for free or whatever it is, but since you need these particular images from me, I need to charge for that. And at that point, they are using your services, and you can come up maybe with a lower rate for that if it's a really high-end car that you have been, trying to shoot for a long time, but it's totally up to you at your discretion. But keep in mind, keep shooting cars for free, just, at your discrepancy, shoot only, for good friends or very high-end cars or whatever you decide to shoot for free, but you don't want it to be a mix-up of people not knowing if you'll shoot the car for free or not. Right? So keep that in mind. You want to make it very concrete for everyone. And in terms of raising your prices, this is done fairly easily. And literally all you have to do is whoever your next person is that asks you for a photo shoot, give them a higher price than you gave to the last person. And I realize that it might be that, the last person you charge them, let's say $100, and now you want to charge $200. And person A might ask person B, they might talk about how much you charge them. And the guy that's getting charged 200 is gonna be like, why are you charging 200 now? And you have to have a legit answer for that. So you have to explain. So now I'm charging more. And if someone were to ask me, well, last year you said you would do it for half the price, that's because now my edits take way longer, right? I'm having 7 to 8 layers, including adjustment layers in Photoshop. It takes more hard drive space. It takes a lot longer to composite the images together. These locations are further. I bought more expensive lights, this and that. So if you have an explanation for it and your quality shows, people will understand, they'll be willing to pay that price. And that's kind of what you get. It's like if you wanted to buy a GTR when it first came out, it was like 80, 90 grand. Now you want to buy a GTR, $100,000 to $140,000, right? So prices go up, and they didn't get your deal early, but let's say they did hire you last year and they keep hiring you at the rate that you keep that rate. Okay, guys, like don't gyp someone into paying more and more each shoot. I think as clients keep hiring you, you should actually be giving them a more discounted deal. And that's actually a really good deal to make with someone, or like with a shop. If you're shooting and they say, oh, we need 5 photo shoots done, then have them pay you up front half of that, give them a little bit of a discount, but say, give me half of the money now, and then after the 5th shoot, give me the other half of the money. And that's a good way to get some nice chunks of income at a time. So keep that in mind. So all you have to do is quote a higher rate for the next person and have a legitimate explanation of why it costs more than you charge their friend. Now, another tip that's very, very important is always email an invoice, or if you don't know how to make an invoice and you can't figure it out, at least email what is going to be included and the set price, so you have it in writing, not just on a phone, because if you text someone or you DM someone, the message could get deleted, whatever it is. This way, through an email, you have it on both sides. You have a date, you have a signature, timestamp, whatever, and email a PDF of the invoice and say, here's the price, here's what you're gonna get. Let's say I send someone a price, I tell them you're gonna get 10 images edited, you're going to get them in high-res JPEG, and you're gonna get them through Dropbox, and this will be at least a week after or within a week of your photo shoot, 5 to 7 business days, right? So I quote it so everyone knows what they're expecting, because you don't want to promise someone something and then not deliver on it, or have a client that doesn't know what they're getting for their money. It's the same thing when you order something online. If there's no description of the product, you're probably not going to order it. So you want to make things very concrete with your client. And to avoid flakes, take a deposit on the day of the shoot or earlier if you can. For example, I use an online invoice system where I can get paid via credit card, or you can get paid via Venmo, PayPal, Cash, Chase, bank transfer, Wells transfer, whatever you want to use, and have them pay you like half of the photo shoot cost before you come out to the location or at the location, and then half when you deliver the final images. Or if your clients are really nice, they'll pay you up front right when you take the images, and they'll trust you to have the files done, and they'll trust you because you sent them that invoice PDF that, if you don't send the photos within a week, they can email it to you and be like, what is this BS that you're sending me? So don't be that guy. Send an invoice and make sure that whatever you promise your client, you deliver on. And don't worry about scaring off clients by having a higher rate. This kind of goes back to bringing your rates back up. If someone is willing to spend money on a car photo shoot and they see your work through Instagram or your website or their friends, and they like it, they'll be willing to pay for it. It's kind of like if you're going to the store to buy cereal because you like cereal, then if this crackling fruit crisps from Market Essentials, I don't even know what store this is from, if this is $2 and this is $4 and the Fruity Pebbles looks a lot better and you just like the brand more and more, you just find this more attractive, you're willing to pay double the price for it. And it's almost the same thing with photography. If people like you as a person and they like your work, they will pay you more than they'll pay someone else. And that's because they're already on the market. Now, this is where it comes into like not being supply and demand, because if, for example, you lowered your price from your typical to half, that doesn't mean that you're going to get double the clients, right? That just means that the clients that would have hired you will hire you at half the rate and you're going to be making less money. So I don't know if you agree with me on that, but it makes sense to me. Comment if you don't understand. But I'm saying if your rate is $200 and you're saying, oh, my rate on Instagram, you post like $100 photo shoot special, the people who weren't willing to spend, $200 probably won't be willing to spend $100 to get a photo shoot with you, and then it'll be really difficult to go back up in price. But the people who are already looking in the 100, 150 range, they won't mind going to 200 if they really like your photos and if they've heard of you through a lot of friends and they've heard good things about you. And so don't be afraid of having a higher rate, because people are more likely to say yes to a higher rate than they are to a low rate. And that's because sometimes you guys have probably experienced this. If you go on Craigslist and you're looking at a car or a camera lens or anything and the price is too low or looks too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true, and people shy away from it because it seems kind of sketchy. It's the same thing with photography and services that you provide. You wouldn't want to bring a plumber to your house that only charges $20 an hour when most plumbers charge $75 an hour, right? You're gonna be like, I don't know if this guy actually knows what he's doing. Like, I might get my toilet fixed for now, but it's gonna, leak or clog again in 2 or 3 days. So I'd rather just pay up front and get it good. And this happens a lot where I have clients who have paid people, $50 to $100 or whatever the number might be, and they're like, yeah, that was a pretty good shoot, but I want to go to another level, and then they'll hire me, and I charge a decent amount more than that. It depends on the client and when in the year this was, and a whole bunch of factors. I do charge a pretty set rate now, but again, I don't want to tell you that because it's totally up to you and your area and the factors of what you're going to charge. But my point being, don't be afraid to charge a little bit more and be the actual Fruity Pebbles than be the crackling fruit crisps. And you have to start at this to get to this, okay? It's going to be really hard to just start at a high rate. So start a little bit lower, get some clients, and then work your way up to being here, right? So hope that helps you a lot. We're going to move into Instagram questions in a second, but 3 things I don't want you to expect. And again, I hope you're still watching this video. If you are, give it a thumbs up. Don't expect to get supercar owners to pay you often, because people are asking them, like I said, to shoot for free all the time. They go to a Cars and Coffee, people want to shoot their cars. And actually people with kind of the lower end non-supercars hire me a lot more. So people with BMW M3s, people with G35s, people with like Jeeps or Hemis, SRT type stuff. People in the $100 to like $50 to $100,000 hire a lot more, I'd say, than the $100,000 to $50,000, because usually those people just have a ton of photos already and they honestly don't care for it that much. Another thing, don't expect anything to be easy. And don't expect every client that you quote a price to agree with you, right? If you quote $50 and someone says, I can't do 50, I'll do 20, and you don't think that's worth your time, don't do it. Don't get yourself down to that level, because if you do one guy at 20, then his friend is gonna be like, oh, I'll pay you 25. And then his friend will be like, oh, I'll pay you 20 or 25, and you'll lower your rate by a ton. So don't do that. And keep in mind, if you have like 2 images that are really similar in a gallery, right? Let's say you're promising a client 10, 20, 30 images. If you have 30 images and 2 of them look the same, the client doesn't know that. So just delete one of them and have higher quality, less quantity, and that'll be good. And keep that in mind, because owners can only post on Instagram or print so many photos from the same photo shoot. So it's not like having 200 photos from a shoot is going to be that awesome, because 1, that takes a lot of time to go through, for the owner, and 2, they can't really do much with it. I shoot cars, I usually provide 10, 20 images, and I'll only see like 3 or 4 actually get posted from that. So let's move on to Instagram questions. Thank you guys for sending these in to @acarphotographer. First question comes from Rick. His username is Sprite Photography. He said, hey Ben, how do you approach potential clients for shoots? And again, this comes through a lot of word of mouth referrals. So this is like, shoot your friends' cars for free, go to Cars and Coffee, go to car shows, go to dealerships, go to meets and drives and talk to people and get your name out there. You don't need a huge Instagram following to get local clients. You need a local following on Instagram to get local clients. Because if you have 10,000 followers and 9,000 of them live in Florida and you're from California, you're not going to get 90% of those people to even be interested in hiring you for photos. So you need to keep that in mind. Try to build a local following. You can do this by going through local places tags on Instagram, hashtags of your local sports team or bar, whatever it might be, and try to get local followers who are into cars. And do that by real world connecting. And let's say I shoot my friend Michael's car. He's @legend on Instagram. Let's say I shoot his car and he meets a bunch of guys with G35s and G37s who want photos. They'll DM me and they'll hire me. And so word of mouth always has been the best marketing tool. Now, another question. Nathaniel, who's at Originate Photography, messaged me, said, hey man, I wouldn't mind some advice. I currently charge $35 for 1 car, 30 each for 2, and 25 each for 3 or more. I usually end up with 30 to 40 pictures per shoot. Do you have any suggestions for me? Is that too low or just right? People here are pretty cheap, so it can be hard to charge more. Let me know what you think. Okay, so I've actually emailed with Nathaniel, and I told him my formula for finding out the rate, trying to make at least minimum wage when you're starting, and you want fewer clients that'll pay you more than you want a larger amount of clients that'll pay you less. So what I mean by that is, let's say he has 1 car and he's shooting for $35, right? And this takes him a couple hours. Or you could shoot 1 car for $100, and that's about 3 cars worth, right? So you can make the same money in a third of the time, right? So even if you get shoots less often, let's say at $35 you get a shoot a day in the week, if you get just a third of those shoots and you only shoot a third of the time, but you're charging 3 times more, you're gonna make the same money with a lot less work. So try to keep that in mind, work your way up to that rate. And the people who are cheap and it's hard to charge them more, if they're willing to pay $35 and they like the photos you take, they'll come back to you at a higher rate. At that rate, you can explain, look, I'm making less than minimum wage. I need to get paid a little bit more to do this. Otherwise, I can't take the time to do it. And people will usually understand. And if not, then don't worry about it. Wait until you get another client at the $100 mark or whatever your goal might be. And that way you can spend less time and have better quality of your images. So that's kind of my tip. That's a good rate to start at. Congrats for getting shoots at that rate. $30 is actually not bad to start at. Again, like I told you, I started at $5, so that's awesome. Now, Parker Tillman is asking, he says, I've had one client was recently offered to shoot 3 BMWs together as a group. Had no idea what to tell them, so I said 150 plus prints. I mark up my prints around 100%. It's a pretty good business tactic. It's still decent prices for prints. I try to keep my price around 40 an hour. This includes time I take to scout a location, editing. Sound about right? So this does sound about right. 150 for 3 cars. It's pretty doable. The 3 owners can split it up, $50 a piece. It's a great deal for you and them. It's a little bit harder to shoot 3 cars, so I would actually charge a little bit more than whatever usual is. But the issue here is it's a very kind of complex pricing system because you're charging 150 plus prints. So that means that it's not a flat rate. So it's really hard to email in the PDF what people will get. So 150 in Parker's case is what's called a session rate. So Parker's saying for 150, I'll take the pictures, but you have to pay extra to actually get them or to get prints of those images. So it's a good way to make money that's more on the commercial side, I'd say. So I would tell them, or Parker, what I would recommend to you is set a rate, instead of 150, if you want to make $300 off the shoot, right? And it'll be way less emailing back and forth with all these guys. Say, I'll do it for $300. Each one of you will get 10 of your favorite images that you can, select from a Dropbox. I'll send you a bunch of proofs. Pick your favorite 10, I'll edit those and I'll send them each to you, and combined they get 30 images, right? Because they can share with each other, and set that price, and that'll be a lot less headaches for you. The rate where you have a session fee and then how much you charge per image, like for digitals or prints, it's more on the commercial side and gets into licensing and stuff that maybe we'll talk about in a future episode. But again, I try to do a flat rate that includes editing and everything, and that way it's a lot easier, because then if you're charging hourly and you get fast at editing, you're going to be making less money, right? So you want to charge a flat rate and then bring your rate up as your work gets better and as you get busier. So hopefully that helps you out, Parker. Let me know in the comments if it did. Hopefully it did. Adam messaged me. Shout out to Adam. He's a local. He's at CarPhotos408. Adam says, I'm most curious about how you actually get a paid gig. Do you ask around, or how do you make people come to you? Then after, how do you know what to charge depending on what the client wants? Thanks for the videos. You rock. Thank you, Adam. You rock as well. Another one is, when do you know you're ready for paid gigs? Like when you felt you were good enough. So we talked about when you're ready. That's when people start asking you how much you charge. And in terms of getting paid gigs from owners, how do you get them to come to you? You reach out, you go to events, you make this funnel where people will kind of come into you and people will refer you. So once you do a photo shoot of one guy who has a certain car, if he has friends who have a similar car, or just he has car enthusiast friends who want photos, they'll usually refer you over. So word of mouth is the best marketing. I'd say just connect with people on a real personal level. Don't go out there trying to sell your services. Go out there trying to make friendships and be a real car enthusiast and make money. If you are not a car enthusiast and you're getting into the automotive photography world, you're going to have a really hard time, because it's also on a personal level, how much you're into cars, how much you actually care, and you need to be able to chat with them. Like, I have clients that I will text, not shoot for a couple weeks, but we'll keep texting about, like, oh, I'm customizing my car. What parts do you think I get? This and that. What should I get? And so we'll talk, and it's really important to be actually in the car space. So again, just kind of build your name out there. And it doesn't have to be just photography related. So John, who is at Yaj Works, I think, says, just in general, should you sell high-res digital photos or just prints? I was thinking about selling my high-res photos, but I'm not sure how to price them. To add, how would you share them? Send them through email? So I recommend sharing them through a proofing system. I use format.com. There's a link below. It's super helpful. Or what I did for the longest time was I would send Dropbox, and I wouldn't sell the high-res images necessarily. I would include them in the package. So I would say, let's say $200 for a shoot, you get 10 images for that in a Dropbox. So what I would do is, after the shoot, let's say I have 100 photos, I would edit, brightness, contrast a little bit here and there. I would put them in a Dropbox, send that link with a watermark to the client, and then I'd say, pick your 10 favorite images from here. They'd send me the numbers, like, 3 of 100 and 15 of 100 and 50 of 100 and whatever. I would edit those, so I'd clean the ground, I'd go through, brighten the wheels, do the double polarization, do all that stuff. And then I would send the final 10 images through Dropbox. So Dropbox or Google Drive is going to be my recommendation there. And then if you want to, if your client wants more images than you say, let's say you promised in the invoice 10, 15, 20 images, and they want 5 more because they found 5 that were really cool, then sell the high-res prints, or the high-res photos rather. And if they want to print it themselves, usually I let clients because they're just printing for their house, it's not commercial use. But if they want prints through me, then yeah, I will charge a markup, and I'll make sure they get really good prints, usually through Adorama pics, and make sure they're perfectly color balanced and corrected and printed on like metallic or a glossy paper, whatever they want, and then you sell the prints. But usually just sell high-res photos if it's just a client that's an individual person that just wants photos for themselves. Now Matan asks, and his username is @MatanPure. Matan says, can you talk about how marketing yourselves to companies or private people to make them approach you for the job? So again, very similar to getting people to approach you. Be a car enthusiast, be in the world. People will, kind of talk about you like, oh, do you know my friend Ben, blah, blah, he's a photographer. And then someone will be like, oh, I actually need photos for my shop. Or, if you're friends with someone who is, getting their car customized at a shop, and the shop owner is like, yeah, it'd be really good to get photos of this car. Do you know a photographer? Then you'll get out there. So it's about meeting real people in real life. And the easiest way to do this is join local Facebook groups that host events in real life, and then go from Facebook to real life. And on Facebook, add people as your friends, and get them to follow you on Instagram, and share your story on Instagram story and on Facebook, in your newsfeed, just kind of what you're up to, what you're doing. And that way people will know, in the back of their minds, one day they'll think like, oh, I need a photographer. I remember I saw this guy on Instagram, or I saw that guy on Facebook. Maybe he can do it, and they'll message you. And it'll take a lot of time. It's taken me years to build up my business, but now, about once a week at least, someone will message me and be like, hey, I have a friend who needs a car shot. Can you do it? And then we'll get in touch and start talking. So that is almost the last question. Manoj is asking here. He is at unmanogeable, which is a very funny username. Very well done. He says, how much can I charge to shoot for cars for clients? So that goes back to one of our first slides where we talked about how much to charge, how to set your base rate. He's saying $70, which is 5,000 rupees in India for 10 photos. That's after considering the equipment and the effort. And I would actually agree with that because I think that, I don't know how much people there make locally, but that seems like a pretty decent price. And he understands his value as well. So always understand your value and how much money you should be making out of it. Because if it's just something you're doing for fun and you're not getting paid enough from it, and you don't want to build it into a bigger business, keep it as something you do for fun, right? If you just go out and shoot your car, keep that. If you don't want to deal with the stresses of the business side, or you don't want to deal with people, and invoicing and payments and meeting random people and all that stuff, and you're kind of an introvert, you're probably not watching this video anymore. So this probably doesn't apply to you if you're still watching, but if you don't want to deal with it, keep it as a hobby. You don't have to grow your automotive photography into a business, but it is an ability to make a little bit more money, which will help you buy more mods for your car or get more gear or whatever. But keep in mind, it is always a passion first and a business second. So you don't want to be going into photo shoots being like, oh, I have to do this again. It should be a learning opportunity every single time you shoot. And I still get clients that every time we shoot, they're like, whoa, your photos got better from the last time and the last time and the last time. And the first shoot, they're pretty impressed, which is pretty good. So always keep learning, and thank you for watching this series to help you do that. The Blitz says, hey, maybe a question for your video. How to approach a supercar owner for a paid photo shoot without being a stalker? How can you make it easier for people to find your accounts and get inquiries for paid photo shoots? I think I covered this pretty well already in the video, but if you want to approach a supercar owner, I recommend shooting their car for free at first, and then do a couple of shots, kind of like a teaser, and if they want to hire you later on, they will, and it'll work out. So that is the whole lesson. I have no idea how long this is, but hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you learned a ton. If you did, comment what you took away from this down below. Please share this with your photographer friends, no matter what part of the business they're in. DM me on Instagram at @acarphotographer. Subscribe for more episodes. If you have ideas for shooting cars that you want to see, whether it be the business side, Lightroom, Photoshop, lighting, light painting, equipment, let me know. I'll try to make a video of it. And if you have particular cars that you want to see reviewed on this channel, leave a comment. I always appreciate talking to you guys. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and I will see you next week on Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm gonna go drink some water so that my throat doesn't totally dry up because it's super hot out here in my studio, and subscribe, watch more videos. There's stuff popping up on the sides of the screen. I'll see you later. Peace. Ugh.